Okay, is this working? Can everybody hear me? Beautiful. Hello, everyone. My name is Susie. I am the office support person for the Woodrick Center for Inclusion and Multicultural Affairs. And today I will be reading our land acknowledgement, and then I'll hand it over to Jamelia over here. So let's get started. We honor the original people, the Anishinaabe Three Fires Confederacy of Ojibwe, Ottawa, and Potawatomi peoples. We recognize that Grand Rapids Community College is located on the land ceded to the United States in the Chicago Treaty of 1821. We also recognize the Grand River Bands of Ottawa Indians as the descendants of original tribes represented at this treaty signing. We express our gratitude to the original peoples, past, present, and future, who have stewarded this land for generations. We understand this acknowledgement must be coupled with a relationship of advocacy and support for Indigenous peoples. We recognize our responsibility to continuously uphold our commitments towards Indigenous communities. This land acknowledgement recognizes the sovereignty of Indigenous peoples and affirms their history in our efforts to be accountable to their needs. Thank you.
All right, good evening. How's everybody doing? Good. I love the energy in the room. That helps me. All right, so I feel as though it's my job to get us in the right space and energy for our tonight's speaker. So I want to welcome you all. Thank you for being here, both in person and for our virtual streamers. On behalf of Grand Rapids Community College and the newly named Woodrick Center for Inclusion and Multicultural Affairs, we extend a very warm welcome to you today. My name is Jamelia Hartley, and I serve as the director for the Woodrick Center for Inclusion and Multicultural Affairs. It is my honor and privilege to welcome you to the Diversity Lecture Series. We are in our 30th year.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
So we're super excited about this year's lineup. The Diversity Lecture Series has served as many years a space created to accomplish so many different things in a short period of time. As we kick off this year's 30th annual lecture series, I want to invite you all to lean in and challenge yourself to reflect and take a moment to learn during this time together and spread that knowledge to those that you interact with every single day. Got my notes to keep me on track. The lecture series is designed to promote inclusivity, encourage continued dialogue, prepare students, faculty, staff, and our community for navigating diverse spaces, foster civic responsibility, support and give a platform for diverse voices, build cultural awarenesses, and so much more. So thank you all for joining us both in person and virtually. Next, I have a few housekeeping things before we get started. For our Q&A, at the conclusion of our speaker's presentation, there will be a brief moment for our audience to engage in questions. For our virtual audience, a QR code will pop up now on your screen so that you can scan it and submit any questions that you have during this time. For our in-person audience, there will also be an option for you to submit a question on our QR code on the screen. Or you can flag one of us down and we'll give you the mic. Lastly, at the end of the presentation in the Q&A, please take a moment to complete our feedback survey as we continue to plan future lecture series and explore innovative ways to keep these important conversations flourishing. We want to hear from our participants. There will be a QR code for you to scan for your phone as well. Upcoming events. Our office is very busy. We do a lot of different things. Lots of various initiatives, programs, events, professional developments for our students, staff, and faculty, and our community members. So we advertised a couple here at the beginning of this event, but if for more information and to keep tabs on what we're doing, please visit grcc.edu/WCIMA. You also can follow us on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram. Our Facebook is GRCC-Woodrick Center for Inclusion and Multicultural Affairs. And our Instagram is GRCC_WCIMA. All right, we want to take a moment to thank some special people that helped make this event possible. I want to take a moment to thank everyone for showing up. I want to thank everyone that has worked behind the scenes, faculty and staff members who have helped make this accomplish this event. I also want to give a special recognition to this year's sponsor, Steelcase.
Steelcase.
Thank you. If you are interested in supporting our lecture series in the future, please email us at wcima@grcc.edu. We would be so honored for your help and support to continue this initiative. And that concludes all of the housekeeping things that I have for you all. Put my notes down. All right, now it is my pleasure and honor to introduce our speaker for this evening, Dr. Anthony. Dr. Shaquille Shaq Anthony, a native of Muskegon Heights, Michigan, is a father, speaker, millennial leader, creative, innovator, and author who's impacted many through his calling and career. The foundation of all that he does is rooted in his passion for leadership, training, and development, feeling charged to ensure that people have the tools necessary to become and live in their best versions of themselves. Dr. Shaq has proven track record of innovation, creativity, transformational programming, and community engagement and outreach. Today, Dr. Shaq serves as a lead organizational development specialist at Corewell Health, where he leads the strategy for culture and focuses on the internal alignment of the organization and the external representation of the organization as it pertains to building a healthy, inclusive, and innovative culture for all team members to thrive in. Dr. Shaq is the author of Purposefully Afflicted, resides in Grand Rapids, Michigan, with his beautiful wife, Kaylin, who I got to hug earlier today. Thank you for being here. An amazing daughter, Savea. Dr. Shaq's favorite quote is, "The greatest legacy anyone can leave behind is positively impact the lives of others. Whenever you add value to others' lives, you are unknowingly leaving footprints on the sands of time that live on even after your demise." Emisibo George. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Shaq Anthony.
Am I on? Can you hear me? I'm good? Okay, cool. Hey, everybody, that's so weird listening to people talk about you and read that. That's so weird. But y'all, can y'all do me a favor real quick and give Jamelia a hand? Come on, make her feel uncomfortable, y'all. For leading this work and being amazing, being a transformational leader. Also, can we clap it up for GRCC as well? For doing this for 30 years. That's a legacy. And quite frankly, I'm honored to be a part of that. That's amazing. I don't take that for granted at all. So we're going to get right into it. I'm excited that you all showed up today. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being a part. We're going to have a very intentional conversation today entitled Synergies Over Silos, Embracing the Connectivity of Culture and DEIB. And so who is Dr. Shaq? After you listen to all the words, right? So many words. I summed this up. This picture is my family, my little village. That is my beautiful wife, Kaylin, and my daughter, Savea. I am a husband, just recently married, May 31st of 2024. So, you know, early in it. Still feel like forever though, right? I'm a father. My daughter is 7 years old. She's amazing, off doing her thing, so much personality. Sometimes I can't stand it, but you know. I'm an author, self-published a book called Purposefully Afflicted, intended to help individuals live in purpose on purpose. Strategist, influencer, culturalist. I'm a musician. All of the above. So that is me. And then the question becomes, why me? Why talk about this? What gives me the clearance to have this conversation. And I want to talk about what I do. I am an employee at Corewell Health. I lead the strategy for culture for over 65,000 plus employees, ensuring that we're building a culture that everybody can thrive in. And it's Michigan's largest healthcare network, or largest healthcare system, sorry. I have my bachelor's degree. I went and got my bachelor's degree from Western Michigan University. Go Broncos. For those that are from Central, please don't say anything. But went to go get my bachelor's degree in human resource management. Went on to get my master's of arts in organizational leadership from Cornerstone University. And then I went straight into my doctoral program, a doctor of education from Cornerstone University as well, in organizational leadership and development. And since I've been working, I have 8 years of experience in cultivating organizational culture. And so that together what gives me a license to have this conversation today and to really focus on this connectivity, which I think is a crucial conversation at this time. So, but I really want to share these 3 pictures just so you can see my journey in real time. Everybody laughing, right? So the first picture is young Shaq. Young Shaq, fired up, getting ready for my first interview. First big boy job out of college, not knowing what I was getting myself into, just trying to figure out my path, not knowing that I was going to be launched into an organization that needed a culture shift and that I would be at the helm of that, really curating the culture of growth and development in that organization. The second picture is this is Shaq grown up a little bit. The second picture is representative of passion. This is me gaining confidence in my ability and, just finding my footing, but also in a season of transition, going into a more corporate environment, and not knowing that upon coming into this formal role where it was a mixture between culture and DEI, that there was so much work to be done. And then this last picture is me now. This picture represents impact. It is me being confident in who I am, confident in what I'm supposed to be doing, and understanding that what I do is so much bigger than myself, and that I'm grateful that I get to do this work. Now, what's the common thread in all of these pictures? I'm laughing at the one in the bathroom. That's so funny. The common thread here is unique because no matter what sphere, industry, space I was in, culture, curating culture, shifting culture, shaping culture was a core element of my work, no matter where I worked, no matter where I went. And so for that, I'm grateful. And I just want you all to know, this has been a journey of embracing my energy, embracing who I am, and not being shackled to corporate norms or the things that people place on you. So understanding my place and my identity in what I do. So let's jump right into it. Culture. What is culture? It can be a very abstract concept. Some people I know it's important. Over the last 4 years, we've heard it rise to the top of conversation. Organizational culture. And simply put, culture is the way things are done around here, right? It's a set pattern of behaviors, thinking, norms, those rituals that happen in the organization that really hold the organization together. Culture is like an ecosystem. Simply put, culture is this is who we are, this is what we do. And when done correctly, culture leads to attracting the best talent, retaining your best talent, really creating an environment for everybody to thrive and for everyone to really be authentic and embrace their identity. Now, I have a quick question. This is going to be interactive. How would some of you describe the tenets of your organizational culture? This is a safe space, by the way. Safe space. What are some of the things that you would, just off the top of the head, how would you describe your organizational culture? Supportive. And I know sometimes it's hard to think about because culture is it's like the air you breathe. You don't see it all the time, but you know you need it, right? So it's like you have to think about that. That's a real question. It's like, what is the culture? Passionate, like that. Student focused, value driven, collaborative. Okay. Okay, good, good, good. Thank you. So then we get into diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. We get into these different terms, right? And we know DEIB is so important. It is critical to the success of organizations, just like culture is. So diversity answers the question of who's in the room. Do we have representation from different spaces and those things like that? Equity is strategically and intentionally offering opportunities to those who would normally be involved, right? So this answers the question of who needs to be in the room that can't get in, right? Inclusion is all about making sure everybody's voice is heard. Do you feel included? Do you feel like what you say matters? And last but not least, belonging is all about feeling safe. Am I safe to be my authentic self? Am I safe to share? Am I safe to speak up? Am I safe to come in and operate in my gifts and my talents? And so another question for you all, how are you all seeing DEIB actualize in your organizations, your various organizations? Thinking questions tonight. I like it. And I'm totally okay with silence, y'all. It don't bother me at all. It's fine. I understand. It's thinking. We're thinking tonight.
Could be better.
Could be better. Mm-hmm. Love that. Anybody else?
It's a lead driver of our culture.
Mm-hmm.
So we consider our organization to be a lens through which we invest internally and externally.
Love that. Love that. Anybody else? One more? You like, I want to say something, but I don't know. You got something? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Yes. I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing. That was a bar. He was snapped. Like it's a work in progress, but we're doing the work in that progress. I like that. That was good. So and so the question then becomes, what is the connection between culture and DEIB? So if culture is the way things are done around here, or how it feels to be in an organization, DEIB is a major, critical, imperative, important, or whatever other adjective you want to put behind that input. Okay? The analogy I like to use with culture and DEIB is culture is like a foundation, right? And a foundation is only as strong as the frameworks that shape it. DEIB is a framework. Frameworks are only as strong as the foundation that they stand on, right? And so that's how we can kind of look at that connection, and that's why it's not unheard of or weird to hear things like a culture of equity, a culture of diversity and inclusion, or a culture of equity, or whatever you want to call it, right? These are two connected things. I'm not advocating that one is greater than the other. That's not the point, but it's to show that they're interconnected, right? So that they depend on one another. That's the connection. So I want to go over some statistics here that I think are interesting. So these are culture statistics related to employee engagement and performance. And so I think these are all strong, very strong statistics, but the ones that jump out to me are those who feel connected to their organizational culture are 4 times as likely to be engaged at work. The other one is those who feel connected to their organizational culture are 62% less likely to feel burned out at work. Last one, those who feel connected to their organizational culture are 43% less likely to be actively looking for another job. Right? And these statistics are important because it shows how important, how powerful culture is. So much so that it affects how engaged people are, how your organization is viewed. I think that when it comes to performance, it's hard to make the connection because culture can seem abstract or be abstract. So we have to work really hard to connect it to the bottom line or connect it to numbers. But the truth is, culture is how you get your best people. And with the best people come the best results, right? And so understanding that connection between employee engagement and also performance. How many of you feel connected to your company's culture? Just raise your hand. Okay. Now, the interactive piece of that is, what is it that connects you? What is it about your organizational culture that connects you? What's the thing that draws you in? It's like, that's it. The care value? Yeah. Love that. Anybody else? Treating people like people and not a number. That's good. Anybody else? I get that. Yes, that'll connect you for sure. Through the screen. Perfect. Okay, now we're going to look at culture statistics related to leadership, employee loyalty, and leadership and employee loyalty. These are some very powerful statistics as well. A few that jump out at me are 94% of executives believe culture is crucial for success. 65% of leaders believe culture is more important than strategy. And 74% of employees feel demotivated by poor culture fit. So over the last few years, we've witnessed culture come to the forefront of the conversation. And I think it's interesting that we see so many executives and so many leaders talking about how important it is, yet we've seen minimal movement in certain organizations around culture. And it's almost like some leaders don't know what to do. It's like, I know it's important, but what do I do? How do I do this? How do I make this happen? And I think it's really telling to understand and know that we have such strong statistics from leaders that say that culture is stronger, is more important than strategy. Peter Drucker is the one I think coined the statement that culture eats strategy for breakfast. Understanding that if you don't have the right culture, your strategy will flop anyway, right? And so these are statistics that I think we have to be mindful of as it pertains to our culture. For those that are leaders, for those that are not leaders, understanding this is important in moving our organizational cultures forward. Then we're going to shift to culture statistics related to competitive advantage. Now, these are very strong statistics as well, but the ones that jump out to me are the 94% of entrepreneurs and 88% of job seekers say that healthy work culture is vital for success. 86% of job seekers avoid companies with bad reputations. Company culture is an important factor for 46% of job seekers. So understanding that your culture is directly connected to your employer brand. Actually, culture is how you deliver on your brand promise, right? It's understanding that. And so I do have a question. If you are a job seeker or were a job seeker, what are some of the things you would look for in a company culture that are top of the list for you?
Flexibility.
Flexibility.
Wellness.
Health and wellness.
Diversity.
Diversity. Humor. I like that. Humor at work, yes. If we're not having fun, what are we doing? One more?
You can tell a lot by how a team interacts when they interview you.
Yes.
So I'm looking at that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, this is all important, and understanding that culture is how you get people to stay, and it's how you attract the best people, right? So this is important when it comes to competitive advantage. And sometimes I don't think we think of culture in that way, but it really is a seller. And for most job seekers, it's at the top of the list. So next, we're going to shift to the DEIB statistics related to education. I'm giving a lot of background here on statistics because I think it's important that we understand what the data says. But these are all very strong DEIB statistics related to education. But the one that really blew my mind was 92% of business leaders agree a strategic workforce education program should help an organization achieve its diversity and inclusion goals. And so this is where we have to think about our organizations being intentional around those strategic workforce programs. So what are we doing to build leadership pipelines? Are we really utilizing our employee resource groups? What are the things that we're doing? How are we looking at innovative approaches to education and helping team members and employees to obtain their educational goals? Because essentially, if we're not, the data says that leaders agree that the strategic workforce investment makes sense, but are we really investing? Right? Are we really investing? To give you an example, I know that Corewell Health invests in several organizations locally that help with that strategic workforce push, that initiative like WMCAT and other organizations that have strategic and innovative programming to help with education and leading team members and those that want to obtain their education to the best employers. Next, I want to move to DEIB statistics related to company performance. The two that stick out to me are corporations identified as diverse and inclusive are 35% more likely to outperform their competitors. Diverse management teams lead to 19% higher revenue. Now, it's interesting to me how positive these statistics are, yet we're still met with so much resistance around DEIB. The data says, right, the numbers say that DEIB is critical to success, but we're met with this constant force against it, and we have so much going on around it. As you know, the war on DEI, right, and understanding that I am perplexed by these statistics because they show such great results for organizations. But what are some of the reasons you think we are still met with DEIB in spite of what the data says? What are some of those reasons?
Talking about change makes people uncomfortable.
Yes. Lack of knowledge.
I was going to say ignorance.
Yeah.
Some companies spirit.
Okay. That's a great approach. That's a great thought process. You're saying that some organizations are fearful because they don't want to get it wrong. Got it. So that kind of holds them back from doing it.
It ties into what you said earlier too. If you don't know how to do it, you have all these great ideas, but if you don't implement it, it kind of goes to the wayside.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think these statistics are good in helping us understand the importance, right? But I think that it's time for us to move from importance to an emphasis on action. We have to do something, right? And so it's not enough just to know how important DEIB is. It's not enough just to know, oh yes, we know it's a thing. We know we have to do this. We know, but the question becomes, okay, what was the old adage? If you know better, you do better, right? And so it's time for us to move from that. From just importance to action. Now we're going to shift to DEIB statistics related to gender identity. And these are all very strong statistics as well, but the one that really blew my mind, blew my socks off, was the GDP could increase by 26% by equally diversifying gender at leadership levels. That's amazing. Simply put, the economy gets better when we have diversity at leadership levels. That's insane to say, right? And I think that we have to note that gender identity is a very important aspect and element of DEIB. But I think that sometimes we are perplexed with the how. Right? How are we going to do this? How are we going to diversify at leadership levels? And so this is why it's so important that we have leaders who are being innovative thinkers about unique pipeline programs, talent pipelines. What are we doing to develop talent, those learning and development opportunities? Those are all important to how we grow diverse talent and prepare diverse talent for leadership levels. So for example, at Corewell Health, we have a policy where they can't recruit for a position or present a candidate slate until it's at least 25% diverse. That's intentionality, right? Around making sure, and this policy is for leadership levels, leadership positions, right? And so those are ways and examples as to how you can really be intentional about diversifying your leadership levels. So, measuring diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. As you can see, these are all ways. You have attrition, performance, promotions, leadership, pipeline, employment pipelines, pay equity, inclusion. These are all metrics used to measure DEIB. Now, one thing that I stand on is if you can't measure it, you can't move it. If you can't measure it, you can't move it. Measuring DEIB is important because it helps us keep a pulse on where we are as an organization. So we have to measure it, right? We have to measure it. It's important. Measuring culture, right? Now, we know that culture can be, again, an abstract concept, but one of the challenges to measuring culture is that many of those metrics that you can use to measure culture, you can use to measure other things. So the assumption is that those metrics should live within other departments. So for example, right, retention lives in talent acquisition. That's a talent acquisition HR metric. But to be honest, you would assume, okay, that lives with the talent acquisition department, but that's a way to measure culture, because if your retention rates are high, you have a culture issue. I mean, if your retention rates are high, you have a great culture. But if people are leaving, you have a issue on hand. So that's what makes culture so hard to measure. But the truth is, we have to be intentional. And when you don't measure culture, you find yourself just letting culture be whatever it is. And usually when we let culture be whatever it is, it's usually a culture that we don't like. So you have to be intentional. Now, the aligned metrics. I don't know if you paid attention to what we showed on the DEIB slide and on the culture slide, but on the DEIB slide, we saw attrition, performance, and inclusion. On the culture slide, as far as measuring culture, we saw turnover/retention rate, productivity and innovation, and employee engagement. These are all aligned metrics. And one of the best ways to create synergy in the spirit of connecting and embracing the connectivity of culture and DEI is to use shared metrics. The idea that we are responsible for this builds a level of accountability. And so attrition is almost identically correlated with turnover and retention rate. Literally, sometimes people use them interchangeably, right? Performance and productivity are directly connected to each other, and inclusion and employee engagement are correlated as well. Some organizations use the inclusion score to keep a pulse on employee engagement. Some people use employee engagement surveys to keep a pulse on inclusion. So they're interchangeable. And so this conversation on embracing the connectivity is important because it's time for us to, I believe that the connection has already been there. It's been there. The connection between culture and DEIB has existed, right? But I don't think we have been intentional about activating that connection for maximum results. We've been in the well, is one more important than the other? Or is this one better than that one? Or do we shift the language and stop calling DEIB DEIB and call it culture and belong? Like, that conversation is cool, but I think, and I'm not advocating for a merging of the two or one is greater than the other. What I'm advocating for, and what I'm saying tonight to you is that they're both very important, and it's time that they both exist in the sandbox together, and this conversation is critical for organizational success. So the question becomes how? How do we do this? You talk about all of this work with the connection and, you know, Dr. Shaq, you said a lot. You gave a lot of statistics. But there's this concept of alignment and connectedness that I want to explore. So aligning everybody to culture and DEIB. Observe and understand how employees and team members are experiencing culture in DEIB. How are they experiencing it? What does it feel like? Redesign key decision-making processes and make sure they align with culture and DEI efforts. Equip employees with the tools to address the barriers in these spaces as well. Connecting everyone to culture and DEIB. This is about empowering employees to apply culture and DEIB to their daily work, foster emotional proximity, right? Feeling the connection, understanding your role in the culture, understanding that you play a role in what it feels like to be in the organization, and recognize and reward individuals and teams who create those micro cultures that are in alignment with the overall culture that you create. So this is why this is important, and this is why it is important to activate this in your organizations, because that alignment and the alignment and connectedness is what will drive you forward. Now, I have been working on something for a little over a year when I got the first initial concept of it. And I'm going to introduce it tonight, and I'm super nervous about it. I hope it lands well, but it's an idea about a framework that just came to me one day, and I started to put some time into really, you know, trying to make it come to life. So in the spirit of how we do this, I want to introduce tonight the Anthony Culture Acceleration Framework. This is something that I have been toiling with for some time. So it's all rooted in synergy, strategies, and solutions. So when I talk about synergies, synergies are the intersection of multiple elements to produce a combined effect greater than what could be done separately. Henry Ford said it like this: if everyone is moving in the right direction together, success will take care of itself. Right? Aristotle said it like this: the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, right? And so this involves coming together in unity and humility, and really focusing on the future. Strategies are plans and approaches that are specifically designed to meet organizational needs by achieving goals. When we say strategy, it involves making key decisions, allocating resources, things of that nature. I think it is Lee Bowman who said a vision without a strategy is an illusion. Solutions are breakthrough innovations and answers that set organizations or groups up for long-term success. And so this involves relentless pursuit of collaboration, the courage to use failure as a compass, and the willingness to embrace transformation. I think it was every problem contains the seed to its own solution. That was Norman Vincent. So the whole idea behind this framework is increased synergies lead to enhanced and cohesive strategies, which result in holistic and innovative solutions. So when siloed, when organizations are siloed, we see confusion, right? Duplicative work, wasted resources, a loss of time, frustration, right? Irritation. We see all these things. And according to Flow Trace, 40% of company employees report that they feel siloed and frustrated because different departments have their own agendas. Right? This is what it feels like. This is what happens when we're siloed. Now, when we're synergized, we have clarity, greater impact, aligned strategies, increased productivity, and collaboration. According to Wharton University, organizations that prioritize synergy experience at least an 11% higher return on investment than companies with lower synergy. This just reinforces the power of synergy and collaboration and connection. So, the Anthony Culture Acceleration Framework, the how, the why. Synergy is all about trust, alignment, and clarity. So number one, start the culture conversation, the culture and DEIB synergy conversation. Start that conversation. It's hard to fathom what possibilities are if we don't create space for the conversation. We have to start somewhere. 2, foster an environment of trust and co-creation. Individuals have to know that they are in a trusted environment and a psychologically safe environment, because if trust doesn't exist, then progress doesn't exist either. And so understanding how important that is. 3, identify and capitalize on opportunities to collaborate. Be intentional about those collaboration opportunities. Be curious, ask questions, lean into the space, and invite others into the space to have the conversation. Make sure that the table has the right people at the table, because without those people, the table is incomplete. 4, streamline and prioritize two-way communication. It is imperative that you establish norms around the how, when, why, where, and the what when it comes to communication. And also understanding that communication is two-way. Understanding that, yes, you can give information, but you got to be willing to listen as well, right? Listening so that you can improve and keep that improvement first mindset. So when we talk about strategies, it's all about simple, memorable, and credible. Number 1, define the strategic direction and set the goals and objectives. If you can't define it, you can't create it. Be intentional about defining where you want to be. Where are we going? What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we getting ready to do? What do we want to achieve? Also review the DEIB practices, policies, and procedures. Make sure that they're in alignment with the culture. Make sure it's in alignment with where you want to be. Make sure it's in alignment with where you are trying to go and what your aspirations are. Number 3, establish and define shared metrics. Shared metrics help to establish co-creation, and it quickly eliminates the turf wars. It quickly breaks down the turf wars. We're both responsible. We both play a role in this. We both share this, right? And then 4, keep assessing and improving culture and DEIB. Why? Because they're journeys. They're both journeys. You never arrive. You just keep going. You keep improving. The moment that you think you have it is the moment that you find out that you don't. Last but not least, solutions. Holistic, innovative, transformative. Number 1, relentlessly pursue collaborative opportunities. Look for and capitalize on every opportunity you can to collaborate when it comes to your culture and DEIB. Collaborate, 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 right? Have the courage to use failure as a compass. Understand that failure is a feature, in that failure helps you find your way by showing you what isn't the way, right? Be intentional about using that. Don't use failure as a crutch, but use it as a feature to help you move forward. Number 3, embody a willingness to embrace transformation. Transformation is a process of discovery. It is a process where you go through and you're really trying to become the best organization that you can. So embrace that transformation. Embrace the changes that come with that. Number 4, tell the story well. Tell the story, share what's happening in your organization. Connect the dots. When the story is told well, there's opportunity for greater collaboration, but also it's a greater opportunity for connection. That's how you get people to feel connected to the work that is going. If I don't know, it's so hard for anybody to embody, practice, show up, whatever word you want to use when they just don't know. So this is why it's important for us to share the story. So the application of the Anthony Cultural Acceleration Framework aligns directly with the findings from other researchers who value culture and this connection between culture and DEI as a major part of success. So you have these statistics that say companies with best-in-class cultures are 72% more likely to invest in the recruitment of diverse leaders. 50% of employees who feel their voice is heard are 4.6 times more likely to perform their best work and attribute it to a genuine sense of collaboration. 61% of employees attribute organizational success and growth to trust in leadership and the alignment of strategies. Synergies, strategies, solutions. So as we start to wrap up, what are some of the key takeaways I want you to take away today? Understanding from the framework that I put together is increased synergies, again, lead to enhanced and cohesive strategies, which result in holistic and innovative solutions. So what do I want you to take away today? Become an alignment addict. Become an alignment addict. I mean, literally, find every alignment is the key. It is the key. Where can we align? What can we do? Can we do this together? What are we doing? Because if you don't, you just duplicate work. And then everybody's frustrated because I'm supposed to be doing that, but you're doing that. And then why are you doing that? Because they're doing that. And this is just, everybody's doing it, right? When we could just sit down at the table, have the conversation and say, hey, let's do this together, right? Understand that collaboration is the currency of the future. Nothing is coming by individuals alone anymore. Collaboration, we're seeing it in mergers and acquisitions. We're seeing it in partnerships, right? We're seeing organizations achieve the greatest levels of success because they decided to make a decision to partner. Understanding that, hey, could I do this alone? Probably, but it won't be as good without you, right? So understanding that collaboration is the currency of the future. Also know that people are instructed by reason, but inspired by passion. You have to be passionate about the work. They have to be connected to what you're doing. Connected all of the way. What are employees feeling in your culture? What are they connected to? Right? Are they connected to each other? Are they connected to the work? Do they see themselves in the strategy? Do they see themselves in everything the organization has going on? So understanding that is important. And then last but not least, understanding that transformation is a process of discovery, development, and distinction. You got to know that you're on a journey of discovery. And in that journey, it's all about development and becoming the best organization, the best company, the best person, right? You want to be. And then that's what sets you apart. That's the competitive advantage. That's the secret sauce. That's your elevator pitch, right? That's the thing that make you you. What is the little man that was sauteing the steak? Right? That's it, right? That is what makes you you. So these are the key takeaways. And I want to wrap up with Q&A. I thank you so much for the time, but I want to make sure I open up the floor for any questions or comments or anything like that. I hope that the framework made sense. I hope that it was helpful. Super nervous about presenting it tonight, but we're here now. We're here now. Thank you. I appreciate that. Any questions?
Relatively loud. What strategies do you suggest within the framework when an organization, person, whomever, run into bumps in the road where they have to recalibrate? I hear you talk about failure. What strategies do you use to really analyze and like leverage the failure that you mentioned?
Yeah, I think the first step is just acknowledging it as failure. Right? I think sometimes people have a problem acknowledging, and I think the way that you turn that failure into into a win or turn it into success is by using it to leverage what's next. And I think that sometimes we get stuck at the fact that we failed, that we don't ask the right question. And the right question when it comes to failure is, what was the lesson? What was I supposed to take away from that? And so just the shift in the mindset around failure and not saying like, oh, not focusing so much as on the why I failed, but what am I taking away from this failure, right? And I think that's how you kind of recalibrate and, readjust yourself and not spend time, beating up on yourself saying, oh, I failed, I messed up, right? And so those are ways that you can kind of shift your dichotomy around failure and using it. I also think that when it comes to failure, a lot of people are afraid of looking like they don't know what they're doing. But understanding that innovation is all about doing what nobody else is doing. And guess what? You might not know what you're doing trying to achieve that, right? And so that's what innovation is. So not being afraid to take the chance. Does that make sense? Cool.
Other questions?
I do appreciate the framework. I hear a lot of emotional intelligence outlined in this framework, not even just with organization, but also with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that once you know who you are as a person, like you mentioned earlier, what your triggers are, how you collaborate with others, it ultimately not only helps yourself, but also the organization.
Yeah.
Collaboration is key. nowadays, as you mentioned, across the board with anything that you do, collaboration needs to be there. And a lot of times, we show up with, well, this was my idea. I should be able to do it all on my own. Instead of, for me, I have the mindset of, I don't want to do everything. Okay, I'm not going to hold you up. I don't like manual labor. I don't want to do more work than I have to do.
Right.
And if somebody else that is passionate about this particular work wants to do that work, I feel like we both win. And that is should be the whole environment and compass when it comes to culture and environments, is that we all win. Yes. We're in a winning season. Yep. So I appreciate the framework because it outlines a lot of that, but I just hear a lot of emotional intelligence, which I think is organization needs to start there. Yeah. With getting their employees that type of information, training, things of that nature, because once you know how to show up better, not just for yourself, but the entire organization and others. So thank you.
No, thank you. That's good feedback. And to add to that, I think that's great. I think sometimes too, culture can be misconceived in that some people think that culture means sameness. Mm-hmm. Right? We got to do everything the same. I got to walk the same, talk the same, do right. And that's not what culture is. Culture is about uniqueness and alignment, mm-hmm. right? And that's why the alignment of culture and DEIB is so important, because if we don't have that diversity, right, of thought and mind, and how are we going to innovate? How are we going to be able to see what's coming down the pipeline? How are we going to see or even explore the future? And I think sometimes when it comes to the culture and DEIB conversation, we focus so much on sameness, understanding that the difference is what makes us unique, and that in that difference, right, it's not so much about me doing it different than you as it is, are we aligned? I might express the same thing a different way, right? I'm pretty sure me and Ashanti both value, love, right? Ashanti's a loving guy. I might express that. Come give me a hug right now, right? Everybody give me a hug right now. Ashanti just might express love like, hey, it was good to see you. How you doing, right? Same thing, two different expressions, but it's the same thing. We're aligned in what we believe and what we value. And I think sometimes we have to debunk that, because it's not about sameness. We want everybody to be unique and see themselves, right, and have that identity and that sense of belonging inside of what we're doing as an organization. So finding that common thread and running with that, right? Any other questions? Comments?
So are you available to help organizations embed this and do that type of work? It sounds like a lift.
I am available to help. You can contact me on any of these handles here. No, but yes, I'm definitely available to help organizations lift this off the ground. And I think sometimes organizations are afraid to have the conversation. They're like, I don't want to look bad. It's like, I tell organizations all the time, it's okay to suck. You just can't stay sucky, right? Like, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to suck right now. Like, the fact that you're having a conversation, right? What is the first step to change is acknowledging that there's a problem, right? So acknowledging that and understanding that you're putting the effort in to move forward. So yes, if you need help, just reach out.
Well, Dr. Anthony, you are brilliant, number one.
Thank you.
Number two, I hope that the framework has been copywritten.
Right.
And the last comment is really, the recognition that when we don't bring culture and diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging together, I think we also have to be able to just say, whether in a corporate audience or a nonprofit audience or community audience, that it does harm to people.
Yes.
And so I just wanted to just also say it that way, right? Because I think we can be so heady around the strategy and the framework that we take it out of the reality of how it's affecting human beings and communities.
Yes.
So thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And that's what culture is. It's what it feels like to be a part of whatever you're a part of. That's what it is. What does it feel like? And to your point, when they're not brought together, it creates harm. We're cutting ourselves short if we're not prioritizing the connectivity of it. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation. And it was funny because in prepping for this, I was so nervous to have a conversation because I didn't want to present like I was for or against either one. Understanding that I know it's a touchy conversation, but I think it's a critical conversation if we're going to drive success and have healthy organizations. I think it's imperative. It is not about this one being more important than that one, or hey, let's just bring it all together, right, and mush it together and let's go forward. I'm not saying either one of those are the right solution. I'm just saying at the end of the day, they're both interconnected. As long as you know that and you can understand that, then we can start making strides in our organizations and wherever we are. Any other questions? Comments? Concerns? Viewer questions?
None online yet. I've been checking. We have a couple more minutes.
Can you elaborate on the, I think you called them microcultures?
Oh, subcultures, yep.
Because you referenced WMCAT, and I'm thinking about what a great place to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also a lot smaller than Corewell.
Yes.
So I'm thinking about you here and how many layers there are to an organization that size, and how you can't be everywhere. How do you scale this where somebody feels that not because it's said in a board meeting somewhere, but because they experience it on a daily basis with the people they work with?
Yes.
Could you? And I've never heard of that term before.
Yeah, microcultures, subcultures. So the truth about them are, no matter if you're 100,000 people or 10 people, you can still have a microculture, right? No matter the size of your organization. And I think that to answer your question about scaling, it's level setting and understanding and making sure everybody knows that this connectivity between culture and DEIB is everybody's responsibility. Yes, you might have a lead, you might have VPs, you might have CEOs and et cetera, but that's why the connection to the work emotionally matters, right? And seeing yourself in it, because if you don't see yourself in it, then you'll say like, oh yeah, it's the boardroom, right? I'm not up there, that don't matter to me, right? It doesn't apply to me. So I think helping team members, employees understand their connection to the work and that, hey, culture, the connection between culture and DEIB is important because at the end of the day, how you show up, how you behave, how you come off, right? It affects what it feels like to, it affects the culture. So I think helping employees and team members really grasp that, right? And own that is how you scale it, right? Just to give you an example, at Corewell, because we're so large, we have something called Culture Champions. It's a Culture Champion network. It's hundreds of them, right, who are championing the work in their spaces, right? So whether that's Priority Health, Clinical, Helen DeVos, East Side of the state, Southern region, we have them everywhere. And that's how we scale it, because those champions go out and they push it and they are representation and they get other team members on board. And next thing you know, you just got everybody talking about, culture, DEIB. It's like this connection, this thing, right? So that's how you scale it. You start with helping everybody understand that it is everybody's responsibility. It's not just one person's job. It's everybody. Everybody is responsible for culture and DEIB, right? Own it, embody it, exude it, right? And then really going out and connecting with those other people who believe the same thing, and you champion it and you scale it. And so it varies, of course, by size, but I think that's how you and just owning that no matter the size of the organization, you can have a subculture or microculture or whatever, and understanding that they're not bad. Right? I think sometimes there's a negative connotation connected to subcultures. It's like, oh, subcultures, they're so terrible. They're only bad when they're out of alignment with what you've defined with the overall culture as, right? And because that microculture is just that expression of what the overall culture is, right? And so you don't want to take that away from individuals because that's the sense of identity and belonging in that. Does that make sense?
And then to piggyback off of that, I also feel micro cultures, subcultures come to play when you don't know what the entire goal is of the organization. When you don't have the same common theme and purpose, you're out here doing, if you don't know, you're out here doing your own thing when it's not in alignment with the whole entire compass of the company is. So I also think combating that is, like you said, when you know better, you do better. Setting what is this whole goal and being transparent and talking and communicating what that is, not just among leadership, but with your entire organization. Because if you don't know how to align or what we're aligning for or how I can help that alignment, you're going to create your own subculture just inherently without you even knowing. And then it'll just run havoc because no one has a common theme or understands what that is or where they fit in and play that part in.
And that's why values are so important, because values are the common thread. What you believe in, what you value, that's the common thread, right? Now, again, the expressions may be different, but if we value the same thing, right? So that's why values are so key, because when you have values, yes, we're different, we think different, we look different, we, have different experiences, different backgrounds, but those values are our common thread and we run with that. Kevin.
Dr. Shaq. So this is a question. It's kind of a turnaround question. So let's say you're in an organization. I'm not saying I'm in this kind of organization, just to be very clear. But you're in an organization where you maybe have a microculture, you're working on a team, and their experience of diversity is paralyzing. They experience across the room lots of different ideas, and they don't know what to do with that, right? Lots of different cultures coming together in the same room, and they're paralyzed by it. There's all kinds of research that suggests for a lot of people that is their experience of diversity, is that it becomes paralyzing and unclear and so forth. So I'm wondering if you're in an organization where that's the experience of teams, and I think you're exactly right that that's related to culture, that you would experience that diversity as paralyzing because your culture wasn't facilitating an environment that would actually leverage that diversity. So how would you suggest turning a culture like that? Where do you start?
Clarity.
Say again, sorry.
You start at clarity. If the diversity is paralyzing, that means there's not a clear direction, right? And it's like, I think sometimes we gather, it's like, okay, we got all this, but like, where are we going now? What are we doing? Because if we gather all the diversity, it's like, okay, I think this, you think that, they think that. It's like, okay, cool. Like, now everybody has their opinion. It's like, now we're inundated with diverse thoughts. What are we doing with this? Right? Where are we going? And it becomes paralyzing because we never make progress. So I think the way to undo that or turn that is to start with a clear direction. I said it, I think, in one of the slides. If you can't define it, you can't create it. Without true definition, you don't have a endpoint. You don't have a direction to head in. At least if we can say where we're going, it might take us some time to get there, but at least we're heading in that direction, right? As opposed to just staying at the same, stop. Like, okay, what are we getting ready to do? No, I'm gonna pump the gas. You gonna pump the gas? What kind of gas, right? I'm gonna do 87. No, I want to do 93. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's, how about we mix both, right? You know what I'm saying? And you're stuck, and you never move from that. And that happens, believe it or not, in a lot of organizations, because there's just no clear direction. And a lot of the lack of clear direction comes from just not knowing how to navigate the space and being afraid of, again, getting it wrong, or are we thinking about this right? Or I don't know if we should do this. It's not, no, you got to start somewhere. So I think the way to turn it, number one, is just to get clear. Get clear. This is what we're doing. This is where we're headed. I mean, we've had an opportunity to work together, and we had a lot of ideas, right, about a lot of things. But once we got a clear direction and said, this is what we want to do, it made it easier for all of us to move in that direction. And so that's just the power of clarity. That make sense? Thank you.
Can I add a comment to that, though, that also we have to recognize that even with clarity, sometimes people are going to have to opt out. Because some people will stick in, this is confusing, this all this diversity, right? Human beings can tend to be that way. And sometimes we're going to have to opt out because the clarity and the vision actually is there. We just have made decisions based off of our worldview, experience, and perspective that we're going to stay the way that we are.
Ooh. Which is why it's so important to have a conversation around culture, because the question then becomes, what are you willing to do when you have people that don't want to align? Are you willing to make the hard decision? That's culture.
Yeah.
Because if you really want to know what the culture of a real organization is, just look at what they tolerate.
Yep.
That's good.
Look at what they tolerate. Because people don't just watch what you do, they watch what you don't do. You know, like honestly, right? Look at what they tolerate. That's a very, so when you establish a strong culture, culture corrects itself. So meaning if we get real clear about our culture and our culture is this, those that don't align, it becomes an adjutant. And next thing you know, it's like, this isn't for me. I'm just going to go do something else. And we look at that as bad attrition, but all attrition isn't bad attrition, because some people are like, oh my God, we're losing everybody. Everybody's leaving. What are we doing? Our organization is dying, when it's really, no, you're just making room for the right people. That's what it is. You're just making room for those that are coming in to contribute, to add value, that align, that value the same thing that you do. And now we can move in greater, effort and impact because now we have the right people. And so I think that is also a misconception about culture. Culture does correct itself, because who can't stand in the fire, they'll leave, right? They will get out of there. And some people see that as such a bad thing. It's like, no, you're just making room for the right people. And understanding that that's okay. So to you, I thank you for bringing that up, because that clears up the conversation around culture, because I think so many companies are paralyzed by that. And then what happens is they tolerate the behavior. It kills morale. It kills the teamwork. It kills the collaboration. And then it's like, what do we do? What do you mean, what do we do? Right? We have to do something. And a lot of times leaders are afraid to make that decision in fear of that they're going to lose something. But you never really lose what you think you're going to lose. And sometimes when you make the decision, you're like, well, why didn't I make that decision 6 months ago? Why didn't I do that a year ago? I should have done that, right? And so just not being afraid to do that, because that's establishing culture. That's what it is. Do we tolerate this or do we not? And if we don't, what are we going to do about it? That's the accountability piece. That's the A word, right? What are we going to do about this? So that's important. Thank you for bringing that up.
All right, we are out of time, sadly. This was great. Dr. Anthony, I wanted to thank you personally for accepting my invitation to have this conversation. The timing of this conversation couldn't have been more impeccable. So thank you for stepping in your boldness, introducing the concepts that you've been working on. I know you were super excited and nervous, and I wanted to make sure I commend you for sharing that information with us. I think you have some fans in the room that are standing behind you. I'm raising my hand. If you ever need me to step up, have a conversation, lead this discussion, and do this work with you, I stand with you. But again, thank you so much for things that you've shared. You've given us a lot to think about as we move forward to continue these conversations and the work that we're doing in the areas that we touch every single day. So again, thank you so much. We're going to give you another round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
As we wrap up, there will be a feedback QR code, as I mentioned, on the screen. Again, thank you again for taking the time out to spend with us this evening. We will be back here again October 24th with Johnny Rodriguez, who is the president and CEO of Latin Americans Making Progress, or as you may know, LAUP. So we're super excited for Johnny to have us lead a conversation about how we can make impact and change as it relates to our Hispanic and Latinx communities. So please, if you're interested, we'll love to have you back in the space. I have parking passes if you need them. Otherwise,
I definitely need one.
Please enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a safe and relaxing rest of your Thursday. Thank you.